Hello, I'm Reverend Rick, and it is my honor to be with you today. We really hope that this video is a blessing to you. And if it is, please consider making a donation. People watch our videos locally when they cannot necessarily come to church throughout the United States and the world. So please join us and click the link below and make a donation. Thank you, and let this be a blessing to you. Hand over your eye. Open my eye to see the spiritual truth today. I open my eyes to see the spiritual truth today. Over your ears. Open my ear to hear the spiritual truth today. I open my ears to hear the spiritual truth today. Across your heart, please open my heart to receive the spiritual truth today. I open my heart to receive the spiritual truth today. The spiritual truth I am dealing with this morning comes from the Essentials of Science of Mind. We believe in the control of conditions through the power of this mind. This mind. You know, we are body, soul, and spirit. And it's at the spiritual level that we share consciousness with spirit, with God. That's where we say, that's where our consciousness is. We use that comment all the time, but we need to remember, we share in this consciousness. The title for this message this morning comes from the book written by Dr. Johnny Coleman. It will work if you work it. See, you have to learn how to work it. That's the condition, learning how to work it. She gives 5 principles for working it in this book. Right thinking, right words, right actions, right feelings, and right reactions. There are only 2 categories of everything in life. I wish it were more complicated than that, but it really isn't. There are only 2 categories. It is either principle or condition. That's it. Principle or condition. You want to understand how to handle anything in your life? If it's not principle, it's condition, and therefore it is subject to change. See, principle does not change. It does not change whether we believe it or use it or not. God is love, whether you believe it or not. God is able, whether you believe it or not. You are able, whether you believe it or not. And then there is the other category, conditions. It's everything else. If it's not principle, it's a condition, and it is subject to change. Illness, poverty, oppression, racism, it's all a condition. It may be a dramatic one, but it is a condition, and it is subject to change. It's the 1950s. Johnny Coleman just completed her degree as a teacher. She was from Mississippi. She went to school in Texas. She returns home. She's living with her mother, and one morning the phone rings. It is her physician. The physician says, medical science would say, you have 6 months to live. Her first thought is, I just started living. You know, for those of us who've gone to school, that's how you feel. When school is over, it's, I just started living. And she looked down, and on the table was a magazine, and the magazine said, God is source, you don't have to be sick. So she takes the magazine, and she goes to her mother, and she says, what does this mean? And she says, I've been leaving these magazines around the house all this time. You weren't interested in finding out what was going on at all. If you want to know what this means, then I suggest you go there and find out. She leaves Mississippi, 26-hour train ride to Lee Summit, Missouri. See, Unity is outside the city of Kansas, 15 miles. And at this time, Unity Village, which is what we call it today, it was called Unity Farm. Okay? And everyone who went to school lived on the farm. So we thought. Because when Johnny Coleman got there, She decided, I want to be. She found when her feet touched the ground, there's something different here. She goes home to her mother's house, packs a bag, and she returns to Lee Summit. She gets there, all the students live at the village, at the farm, except Johnny Coleman was the first African American to apply to Unity. Remember, this is the 1950s. Segregation is the law of the land. In most states, African American people could not even vote. The interesting thing is, it's exactly like the Revolutionary War. What did the country say? Taxation without representation. We can fight in the army and we can pay taxes, but we have no vote. It's amazing how things just kind of come right around again. If they're not resolved the first time, they just come back. So Johnny Coleman is here. But Johnny Coleman has a condition, and she has decided, once she read that one statement that you don't have to be sick, she was determined to overcome this condition. And what about you? Do you have a condition that you need to overcome? If you don't talk to me, I can tell you what your condition is. Because you have one. But the thing here is there's times that, not having an issue resolved is not an option. You have to approach the condition. And this is my theory, this is not in fact my textbook. But the thing is I think it only gets harder until you address the condition. It's either principle or condition. Johnny Coleman continues through school. It's the third year. She's going back and forth to where she lives every day. So think about this. 4 years, 6 times a week, you drive 30 miles a day. She was serious about the condition. Would you drive 30 miles a day for 4 years to resolve your condition? You will if it gets bad enough. So she does this. Third year, she's going home one day and she ends up in a rainstorm. And she drives under an overpass and her car floods. So what do? She just gets out. There's a hotel. She walks into the hotel. It says vacancy. When she walks in, the desk clerk says, no vacancy. She says, but the sign says, there's vacancy. She says, there's no vacancy for you. Go down the street until you find the next hotel. Johnny Coleman walks down the street, but she never finds the second motel. So she returns to the first place. She has no choice. So she tells the man, I'm staying here tonight, or you're not staying here tonight. Because see, sometimes you will hit a wall, and you can't go around that wall. You can't go under the wall, you can't go over the wall. You have to go straight through the wall. The wall is nothing but a condition. It's not a principle. Which wall in your life? You got a wall? It's fine for you to go around it if you want to. It's time to go over it and under it if you so choose. But to get it resolved, you are going to have to go through the wall. She returns to Unity the next day, soaking wet, and says, either I live here or I quit. Biblical story about changing conditions. Jesus encounters a man at the pool of Bethesda. Bethesda is the place of compassion, the place of mercy. There are 5 gates to this pool. And there are 5 gates to our consciousness. Okay? We have the eye gate, the ear gate, nose gate, taste gate, and the touch gate. This is where we perceive the condition. And you will believe, if you believe your senses, that this is impossible and it cannot change. But if it is not principle, it can change. Now the amazing thing is maybe we've gotten a little comfortable because we're afraid to say things are possible because it may not happen. By the way, I am called to pray for you. I am not called to heal you. That is not my job. And if I think I can't pray for you, it's because I'm looking for the glory rather than the spirit that is within you overcomes the condition in your life. Even the ones that look absolutely impossible. So Jesus says to the man, do you want to be made whole? The man says to him, as the story goes, you have to go into the pool immediately after the angel touches the water for your healing. And there is no one to put me in the pool. Jesus did not ask why he was there. That wasn't the point. The point is, do you want to be made whole now? It doesn't make a difference what you heard yesterday. Do you want to be made whole now? But the man had an excuse. He had made a bed and moved in with his condition. Have you moved in with yours? Do you have a bed you're laying on? Have you just decided to get comfortable? Pull up the covers, flannel sheets and all, and you have decided, and maybe you even have a nightstand next to it with what you like to drink. Whatever the circumstance is, see, the condition maybe is not bad enough yet. Maybe it's not bad enough. So Jesus says to him, take up your bed, get rid of this excuse, and take up your bed and walk. Now, human race consciousness would say, you're supposed to get in the pool. Jesus was supposed to touch him. None of that happened. But three things we see in this story is this. Number one, he didn't need the pool. That's what people say. Number two, he didn't need Jesus to touch him. Now, I have no problem with Jesus. Jesus and I are cool. Don't you tell anybody any different. But the point is, Jesus had to teach him. And each one of you have the same ministry, by the way. All this divinity sitting in this room is supposed to bring light and a change of consciousness in the world that you are in. The third thing is, making a bed means you have gotten comfortable with the condition. Are you comfortable with your condition? Let me tell you how to test whether or not you've gotten comfortable. Do you have a story why it exists? It's just the way I was raised. It just happened to me. You know, I just, where I come from, this is just the way things are done. You are taking a condition and making a bed and getting comfortable with it. But that is all about choice, because you have the power through this mind to control the condition. Johnny Coleman, standing there, says, either I move in or I'm leaving. Third year. She said, I don't really remember when I got healed. I just did what I know I needed to do. The student body supported her, and she was able to move in. Oddly enough, she moved in and she didn't like it. She said it was cold and drafty, and she wasn't comfortable. So she moved into the hotel that said she couldn't stay there. So here's the thing about a bed, okay? You make a bed and get comfortable with it, and when you finally deal with it, you'll find that the situation that you had really just wasn't that hard. And you may not even necessarily like it, but you have made a bed of the situation. Now, how I became familiar with Johnny Coleman is this picture here. It is 1984. And the cover of the magazine says, African American woman opens auditorium, a church, with 3,500 seats on 100 acres in the south side of Chicago. 1984. Segregation didn't stop her. Her illness did not stop her. All the discouragement that she went through did not stop her. She didn't make a bed. 3,500. I want you to imagine, just look around the room. This room full is about 300 people. 10 and a half times the size of this room teaching new thought, which has something to do with our consciousness as well. I really believe there's going to be a time there's not going to be enough room in this room. I believe that. God told me you need that motivation. Because if life gets hard enough, oh, you'll show up. So it wasn't only just the auditorium. She opened a school of ministry. She opened elementary school and high school for the students that actually participated in her church and others, and opened up a banquet hall. Now that was overcoming her condition. Now, the condition, your condition may not be opening a church with 3,500 people. That may not be your situation. But whatever condition in your life, let her life give you an example about how to handle it. So Johnny Coleman says, there are 5 rights to overcome and demonstrate in your life. Remember, if it's not principle, it's a condition, and it is subject to change. First thing is right thinking. You've got to determine whether or not this is a principle or a condition. And if it's not a principle, it is what? Subject to change. How do you feel about this situation? If you are being oppressed, discouraged, whatever the situation is, you cannot deliver that kind of attitude and feeling back. We overcome evil with good. See, we have to operate in principle because that's the way life goes. You must do it first if you want it to change. It's a very simple thing. You want to know how you want something to change in your life? Do it first. Because you have to operate in faith for things to change. Right thinking, right words. What is coming out of your mouth? Is it all about victory or all about failure? Do you have a story about why you have made your bed? Don't get lost in the story. Get lost in the principle. Wholeness, and she wanted to be made whole. Right reaction. And this is the danger. Out of everything we deal with in life, particularly when we are personally hurt by it, you want to hurt who hurt you. You cannot do it. Because if you do, you think it's justified, and it very well may be justified, but it will return to you, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. That works for giving, it works for attitude, it works for how you deal in your life, your job, and everything else. It's just the way the law works. You must do it first. I find encouragement with Johnny Coleman. In the middle of segregation, in the middle of being oppressed, in the middle of being ill, she decides to believe in principle. So I leave this with you today. What is your condition? What is your condition? Are you willing to give it up? Are you willing to let go of the story? If you are, you have to just acknowledge it and start on the road of recovery. It's all about embracing the principle. Let's pray. There's only one power, only one presence, only one ultimate reality. Anything that is a limitation only appears to be so. It has no power in itself. So as I speak my word, all needs are met by the power of this one mind and this one presence. We release this word, love and law, and so it is.